Hey everybody, welcome to the fun part. This is the video where we are going to teach you how to build your own balsa wood bridge. Don't be overwhelmed. We promise we are going to present this to you in a way that is super simple to understand. First of all you really need is what comes in the box. You got your balsa wood, your glue of course, a pair of scissors, something to make a mark with, and a piece of paper to get your designs down. We're going to show you some quick examples, but stay tuned for exactly how we're going to go about this and how we're going to turn these materials into a bridge that you are super proud of. Go ahead and pause this video at any time to get a closer look, but we wanted to quickly show you some bridges that our team built that performed pretty well, and so you have an idea of what you're getting yourself into. Displaying on your screen are the famous Warren, Pratt, and Howe trusses. Keep those in mind as they could all potentially be great options. But whether you decide to find inspiration from one of those or get a little crazy with it like this one, we know your bridge will turn out great. No matter where you get the design for your bridge, the first step is to get it down on paper. This is a design for a sample bridge that I built, and as you can see, if you follow the right steps, it matches up pretty closely. We also include for you a piece of parchment paper that acts as your working surface for any cutting, gluing, and woodworking in general that you're going to be doing. The design with permanent marker shines right through and gives you a great template to build upon. An important part of this project is getting the most out of your wood. Remember, the balsa comes in individual 12-inch sticks. It is going to be smart for you to label the different lengths of your different members to make sure you have enough material for everything. Take your time on this design part and really dial in a bridge that you are excited about, and don't be afraid to get creative. Alright guys, so as you get going on this, there's a couple things we want you to keep in mind. The first points back to that parchment paper. Make sure you're doing all your cutting and gluing on that, so that way when you're all done, there's no mess to clean up. The second is a general rule of thumb is when you are cutting wood, cut it a hair longer rather than shorter, because you can always take a little bit more off, but you can't add to wood. And finally, once you start making some real headway, stay tuned for exactly how we want you to connect your bridge. The first step is to decide just how far apart you want these trusses away from each other. We don't recommend more than a couple inches. Once you do decide that length, however, go ahead and cut a bunch of connecting pieces to that exact same length so you have uniformity when you go to connect the bridge. Go ahead and throw everything to the side except for a truss and a few connecting members. On the corners, place a glue dot large enough for a piece to stand on. Do your best to stand the pieces up straight while the glue dries up a little bit. Don't worry, we will give you some more tips on glue later. Take your time, but go ahead and glue down the rest of the connectors piece by piece. You can always go back and add more glue later. When things are relatively dry, you are going to want to put some glue on top of each piece that will connect to the other truss. Hot glue dries relatively fast, so try to be efficient here, and maybe even bring in an extra set of hands. Take this time to make any minor tweaks if need be, and then apply a little bit of pressure to ensure a good bond. Okay. Let's talk about glue. Glue is obviously a very important part of putting these projects together, but please listen to us when we say that don't overglue it. Overgluing it actually reduces the strength of your bridge, and it also unnecessarily weighs it down. Look at this quick video clip that we put together for about how much glue we recommend to apply when connecting two pieces of balsa wood. There are also a couple nice things about working with hot glue. One is the members actually remain a little bit flexible until they're glued down in a couple places, so take advantage of that if need be. And also, the glue dries relatively fast. Give it a couple minutes for a partial dry, and not long after that for a full dry. One thing to keep in mind is please don't leave the glue guns plugged in for too long. We don't want them to overheat. So if you are gluing multiple things at one time, just be cautious of how hot the glue gun is getting and make sure there's no damage being done to it. By this point, I bet you guys have some good ideas and a pretty good foundation about how you are going to go about building your bridge. But before you go too far, check out some of these tips that we think will take your bridge to the next level. Stacking members along critical joints is a popular way to add strength and durability to your design. My guess is that not every member in your bridge can be the 1/4 inch thick wood, so bonding some smaller wood together is a great alternative that still provides strength in critical areas. Just a thin bead of glue should work just fine to give it a good bond, but make sure you squeeze them together nice and tight. The process you see here is reinforcing joints with something called gusset plates. In real bridges, gusset plates increase their life by up to 3 times what it would be without them. Keep an eye out for these plates next time you see a bridge. In our case, they just help support the weight of the bridge at critical spots, and this final picture is a truss with gusset plates at every joint. Lateral bracing is perhaps the most important of these tips, as it helps prevent the twisting of your bridge, which is unfortunately how many of them will break. The longer that twisting is kept in check, the greater of a load your bridge will be able to handle before collapsing. Diagonal members are a great way to design them in, but you can also reinforce from the inside as you saw in that brief video. Although this one can get a little time consuming, modifying members to be flush with each other increases the surface area of the connection and decreases the stress. Although it may not be necessary at every connection, it is definitely something to keep in mind during your build. It's up to you to decide what you want to do with those tips. Because remember, outside of the few guidelines and specifications that we give you, this project is entirely yours to design and make your own. Except, if we could give you a little tip, lateral bracing is really important, guys. Please give that at least a shot. But finally, let's talk about some safety real quick, and there's only a few things. Mainly, just be careful with scissors and watch, where your hands and fingers are. And when working with hot glue, just be mindful and use common sense and, keep your hands and fingers away from that as well. Clean up your workstation so you can avoid things like splinters, but other than that, guys, please use common sense. I know everybody is good at that. So without further ado, let's learn how we're going to test these projects.